Hi, my name's Angela Casey and welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors, the podcast that explores Edinburgh's green spaces and the people in them. Today I've come to Lauriston Farm, an agroecology farm, and before you say anything, I'm going to ask about that because I want to find out what agroecology is. I'm going to be meeting with a grower. The land is owned by the council. You can come down here and have a look round the community allotments and walk through the fields and see the tree planting that they're doing. It's a really fantastic space. So welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors, Dav.
Thank you.
Very nice to meet you. It's very good of you to come and meet me. So to start things off, can you just tell me what you do here, what your role is, how long you've been doing it?
Yeah. So I've been involved in the project since just before we secured the land here, which was 2020. And the biggest part of what I do here is the food production. So that's growing for the veg box and the market stall that we have. And the sort of infrastructure and equipment side of that, as well as the compost, seeds and harvest side of things.
Yeah.
But also as part of my broader role on the farm, I'm supporting the community growers, helping them where they need with some of the equipment we have or just additional labour. Or we were putting in a lot of drainage last year. We've been improving the water supply this year, just things as they come up. And then, some on the sort of admin, finance side of things as well within the co-op, within the organisation on the farm.
So there are two things here, is that right? Can you explain to me what this is?
So I guess for the farm, we have kind of four principles. We've got community, food production, biodiversity and cooperation. And roughly speaking, the first three take about a third of the farm each, with the community focused on the Silver Nows side of the farm.
Which is probably the bit most people
maybe more familiar with Toby Carvery, all of the bus terminates up there. Yeah, definitely that's the sort of part of the farm that's nearest the largest number of people. And with the use of that car park there at Toby Carvery and the active transport opportunities for the front, most of our community work is focused up there.
Yeah.
So our community gardens and our community allotments went up at that end.
Yeah.
Just more accessible and better to have that provision closer to people. The food production, which is kind of a bit more of a social enterprise, a bit more of the work and farm side, came to this side of the farm. We still have access onto Cramond Road South, but we have no car park there, so it's more focused on the work and farm side of things.
So it's less a place that people would come and visit?
Exactly. It's more by appointment or our volunteers or workshops or tours.
Right.
People will get a facilitated look at this space.
Yeah.
And that kind of fits around our working schedule in the week and our busy days when we've got harvest and veg bags going out and so on.
Okay.
So that again is about a third of the farm, about 30 acres that is primarily being managed towards food production. And then the northmost field is primarily managed for biodiversity. So we're doing as much as we can to create a low disturbance area and increasing the biodiversity with wildflower planting, tree planting, and having that ongoing conversation with the people who use the land, people walking their dogs, whatever, about why it's important to create space for biodiversity intentionally. We have a lot of community engagement, both on the day-to-day, just by being in the space and having the information that we do have up.
Yeah.
But twice a week we have drop-in sessions. People are on the farm and very visible at the top. So if any of my colleagues are working, they are quite accessible, and I think there is quite a lot of conversation.
They were very welcoming when I went in there. They were really nice.
I'm pleased to hear it.
So you're talking about food production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the purpose behind the food production?
I suppose the purpose ultimately is to feed as many people in our community as we can, as ecologically as we can, and to try to find that balance with a bit of community ownership in the project, a bigger community stake in the project. And then finding the most appropriate ways to get that food onto people's plates, because a lot of organic or like sustainably or regeneratively farmed food is not always financially accessible.
No.
There's a lot of barriers beyond just the finances of it. But there are strong networks in North Edinburgh of community groups communities and other organisations that really have food poverty as a focus, food sovereignty as a focus. So we've been trying to build the connections with those networks gradually year on year so that we're distributing our food into those communities, those more marginalised communities, those poorer communities, as well as the communities that are on the west side of the farm, which are some of the most affluent in Edinburgh, Crannon, Barnton.
Well, you don't give it to them. I assume you encourage them to come and buy it.
So we have a sliding scale model for our veg bags that gives people self-reference where they want to place themselves. Once they've engaged with our veg bag, we'll give them a different idea where we might think they want to either offer solidarity by paying a little bit more, or be open to receive some solidarity and take the price down a little bit.
And by selling to them, are you helping fund the wider food project?
So it allows us to, with confidence, offer what we do at a lower price.
Yeah.
And so far, year on year, that has seemed to work for us. But we are definitely in the process of scaling up what we're doing. It'll be a while until all of the land here is productive and we've got as much food production as we can happening here. There's plenty of space to grow into at this point.
It seems brilliant that someone is producing all this food and they're not just producing it to sell commercially, but you're producing it to get it to some people who otherwise can't afford it.
So it's our veg bags go out in a community supported agriculture scheme, which is basically a membership for the season. Starting in June, we'll probably run until November, early December. And then we have land partners that are here growing mushrooms, so they offer mushrooms, and then we work with another farmer to offer eggs, and with a bakery in North Edinburgh to offer bread as sort of add-ons. So with that membership model, that gives us a little bit more security through the season, because people have demonstrated their intention not just to shop with us that week, but to do that over the course of the season as we have stuff available. And that, obviously, the produce shifts through the season. And then we've got our stall that happens on the farm on a Thursday evening, but then also there is surplus beyond that, and we do try and find homes for that as well. So Granton Community Gardens, they run community meals. We often, if we can get food to them, we do. Same with Empty Kitchens or other organisations. So while there's really no waste here because it goes on the compost and it becomes next year's vegetables, there's a real effort to get as much of that food onto plates one way or another. And trying to find the balance of community and commercial, while we've stated that community biodiversity and food production are all priorities, we've got to kind of find that balance.
But also just getting people to help you pay for it. Seems
absolutely
a good thing to do.
So
that's a whole polytunnel of tomatoes. What else have you got?
Well, we've got another 3 polytunnels here with cucumbers, they've had beans, and the propagation space where a lot of the things will start inside before they're transplanted out. We also have a couple of caterpillar tunnels which are a bit lighter. They've had salads in them and things at the beginning of the year for a bit of season extension, but they're not quite as secure or permanent as the polytunnels. And then we have a lot of 20-metre beds and a lot of 50-metre beds, outdoor space. And we've tried to break them up into little blocks by planting windbreaks.
So you're not entirely dependent on selling veg boxes, you also have funders, is that right?
Yes,
so
we
who
do.
Funds you?
We've been very lucky, basically. It's been possible because of multi-year funding facilitated by Federated Hermes. They don't do a lot of conventional funding. It was my colleague Lisa who was in at the beginning with the farm and in the process of looking for funding to try and put, at that stage, just a business plan together to propose to the council. Started the conversation with Federated Hermes as part of their corporate responsibility. They were looking at biodiversity and they were interested in carbon and how that overlapped with community and use of urban space. So it sort of ticked a few boxes for them. They supported us with the business plan and have gone on to support us in the 4 years since. And then we've also got funding from the Co-op Foundation, Nature Scott, various different places. That's an ongoing process. So we're trying to establish our own income streams and build them up, but to get to this point it's very much been dependent on grant funding.
Look at that kale, it's the colour of it, isn't that fantastic? That's amazing.
And between last year and this year it's just wild difference, real fluctuations.
I mean, you're obviously watering.
We are still watering because it is dry now. It is dry.
It's really dry.
But yeah, last year we gave up more or less on our courgette, summer squash and a lot of our pumpkins. And this is our squash and pumpkin block this year. Last year we just didn't have that.
So are there are obviously some bits here you still want to do stuff with, is that right? You've got other plans?
Definitely, yeah. This top field here, we're planting trees in this area as well to create alleys. So we'll be cropping the areas in between the trees. There'll be fruit trees that we've already got in, or as we come this way it'll be mostly fibre. So
and are those the alleys over there where I can see
them there.
Stripes?
So
is it a standard practice thing? I've never come across it before.
So it's like agroforestry, just one of the ways of integrating productive trees into arable. And on this site specifically it will help us with the wind, but generally it's also good for moisture and soil retention. You've got deeper roots from the ground. As long as the trees are managed well to minimise impact on the crops. So you might not plant willow, for example, because it's so thirsty, it might have an impact on the crops in between. But if you are careful about what you plant and how you plant them, then they can bring a lot of benefit. And we've seen that as well with when it's very hot, even that bit of shade is beneficial. As we've got used to larger and larger fields in terms of conventional agriculture, essentially that relationship's been demolished. But as people who are advocating for replanting our hedges, it's just about bringing more trees into that environment for the additional benefits without losing the productive land.
Right.
And this is a way to, theoretically we could have planted a small orchard and just had this as one large field, but it makes more sense for us to plant those alleys, manage those alleys separately.
They're wider than I thought.
Yeah, we're preparing this ground for a winter wheat.
Here?
So, yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that was sown in the summer and has been mowed twice this summer, and then that'll get turned and we'll be putting wheat into the ground.
Is this a green manure you've got?
It is, yeah.
It's really pretty.
It's amazing. It is amazing, and it's a lot of flowers for the pollinators. They've really loved the green manures that we've had here.
So this is an alley here, which actually, when you look at it, it doesn't really look like an alley, does it? I had this thing in my mind. Actually, that's just, it's a long, narrow field. It's like a croft, actually, isn't it? It's very like a croft.
Exactly. It's actually, that's a good way of putting it. It's quite like the in-by field. The wheat is the focus next year, and we're just going to do all of that area. One of our key partnerships in North Edinburgh is Granton Community Garden, and they run Granton Garden Bakery. So the wheat originally came from them. They essentially have small plots on the street corners there, and they've grown a landrace of wheat that is unique to Granton. It's been grown now in Granton for, it'll be 10 years, 10 seasons. So after about 4, I think, it can be recognised as genetically distinct from the parent. And as that time goes on, it becomes more adapted to the specific location where it's been grown. So over the last 3 years, we've taken a small amount that was grown there, started it in allotments to bulk it up to 500 square metres. We put very little back, apart from testing it, back into the bakery yet. But this is our first large harvest where we'll keep some seed, but the majority of it will be able to go into Granton Garden Bakery. So they work with different farms for their supply, but we would like to think that at some point we'll be able to be producing for them as well. We get bread and buns and pasta and various things to add to our stall from them. So it's quite a good relationship.
That is a good one. So how much do you work the allotments things? How, you work with them, do you?
Yeah, I work with them. We'll go and help them there with some of the equipment that we have down here.
Right.
Or organising events can also help.
Yeah, and they do the market stall.
The market stall happens there just beside one of their containers, but we'll go and set it up and staff it. We like to have some of the growing team on the stall. It's a good opportunity for people to meet the growers and also to see what we're doing in here. A lot of people, even if they live locally, they might pass the farm regularly, but they don't have a point where they can see the produce or buy the produce from us very easily. So having that stall regularly through the summer has been a good point of community engagement for people to sort of come and see what we're doing here.
And that's on a Thursday
evening.
So are there things here that you still want to do but you haven't got the funding for?
Yeah, we've got a few big projects looking for funding, and then we've also got our ongoing core stuff which we would like to be doing more of if we could. Do you want to walk up and maybe have a look at that side?
So is this the bit where people are walking their dogs?
Yes.
And things? Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we put the deer fence up, and legitimately there is deer pressure with the various golf courses and then the Dalmeny estate all kind of joining together here.
There's deer everywhere.
There's deer, yeah.
There are way too many.
So yeah, it also helps to distinguish where we're growing the veg, and then this is the area that's open access. We'll maybe actually walk this way.
Yeah.
This is where we've done the most of our tree planting. This is what we call the sort of main woodland. One of the big projects that we're looking for funding for is actually daylighting the burn that runs down the bottom of this little valley.
Is it in a culvert at the moment?
It's in a culvert, and it's sort of collapsing in places,
right,
just through lack of maintenance. I mean, it's hundreds of years old.
Why
probably.
is it in a culvert there?
Because I think they've wanted to farm over the top of it.
Right.
We know we've got some very active field drains elsewhere on the farm, so I think there's actually quite a lot of water buried underneath. So instead of moving over the surface here, they've decided to bury it and farm over the top.
Okay.
So what really we would like to do is to get that water back onto the
out.
surface, because that would be great for the biodiversity. Water just creates life in that way.
And what trees have you planted here?
On the slightly higher ground, it's just a native woodland mix. So there's a lot of birch, hazel, hawthorn, blackthorn. We've got some dog rose in there. And then down towards the bottom where it's a bit wetter, we've got more alder, some willows, and some of the other more water tolerant.
It's fantastic. I didn't know this was here.
Yeah.
I've seen it from up there, but I hadn't quite realised how this was and how amazing it'll be when it grows up.
Yeah.
As well.
I mean, this is just testament to how long we've been here.
Who funded all the trees?
So that initial tree planting was a Nature Scot bid that we got. It was when we just got onto the land, and at that first spring we planted about 11,000 trees. In conjunction with putting in some of the fencing and so on. And it was entirely done with volunteers. We reckon we had about 500 or 600 volunteers over the space of maybe 8 weeks.
So the people at the farm, some of you are employees and some are volunteers, are they? Or
so
is
there's
everyone
a
an
team
employee?
of 11 of us who are employed, and we're the sort of core team for the community and the food production and so on. And then we have volunteer sessions every week. So some of those volunteer sessions will be attended by the same or similar people, to the point where after a couple of years they're very much part of the farm community, but they're here as a volunteer.
Yeah.
So there is that distinction in terms of the responsibility and the decision making. It's very much sort of team focused, but the community that we're building on the farm does take in a lot of volunteers and a lot of people who come to the farm as a even more therapeutic exercise. So in the first couple of years here, we did start a lot of conversations and meet a lot of people, and as we're sort of working out what we're good at, where our strengths lie, narrowing that down to be good, and bearing in mind what our core aims are here. The education definitely comes into the community aspect of what we do. So this is coming up here to the community orchard. Just in front of the community allotments, we've got the orchard here that is run by a voluntary group who are semi-autonomous in organising themselves in the work in the orchard.
That was all part of your development as well?
Yeah, but this is now managed more out of the allotments and the community gardens up here.
Right.
A little bit of tree planting in this field, but we've earmarked the bottom of this field for children's woodland.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that we would like to do with the schools, is have the same kids come back through the years as they progress through school to maintain the same trees.
It's a really nice idea, I like that.
We can walk up round here and we look at the allotments.
So the community allotments,
Yeah.
how does that work?
We manage them and we have our own policies in relation to allocation and so on. When we were first in conversation with the council, we asked if they wanted to open them as council allotments or potentially half community allotments, half council allotments, but they have no capacity for new allotment sites. So we've just opened the whole area up as our own community allotments, and that's not to individual households.
Right.
It's to community groups or residents groups. So when people have approached us looking for their own allotment, we've essentially said, go talk to your neighbours. If you can find 3 neighbours who also want to have an allotment, come back. And that's a residents group essentially. And we felt like it was a better way to allocate the allotments to also be building community in the space.
Yes.
And to try and encourage groups to manage them and not individuals maybe taking on more space than they can maybe cope with or whatever. Having these groups, however informal, taking them on worked better.
I could tell when I went in that it had a lovely atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
And
Felt
then,
like a good place to be. It's huge.
yeah, 3.5 acres inside the fence, so quite an area. Not all divided into allotments. There's maybe a quarter of it that is as yet unallocated.
Yeah.
Just gradually filling out the space. And a lot of things are also done collectively. So, for example, there's a big rhubarb patch. The feeling was that maybe everybody didn't need to have their own rhubarb patch and they could all collectively manage the rhubarb.
Yeah.
And with some of the other raspberries and things.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a few, but you want a bigger quantity for the community.
And they're both weeds as well, so as soon as you put them in, they
Sure.
just
Yep, they
take
take
over,
off.
don't they? Yeah, they do.
And then a couple of the plots were also just straight community garden for folk who maybe they want to do a bit of gardening and they're happy to come to the drop-in sessions. Lisa, Hannah and Agnes manage the community allotment as well as the rest of the space.
It looks like a really nice space that they're building here, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a sort of little
Just a little shelter.
city area.
In the summer we have little community music sessions, or we've had our harvest festival in this space. Just a little bit of built infrastructure as a focal point.
Was someone doing a music session last week? Did I see that?
Yes, Thursday there was
I saw
one.
it on social media, I think, that they were doing it.
Also, in terms of making the farm accessible, we've got pretty decent paths that come up to here. And I feel like that gives people a view of most of the farm and they get to see a bit of the landscape and a bit of the view up to the hills and so on. We'd like to have that as a really accessible up to here, so everybody can come up here regardless of their access needs.
Yeah.
And then extend that. And we're looking to possibly up round the orchard or taking in a small loop at the top of the field. Something that would open up with the benches and all of the necessary infrastructure that then, you're just creating a bit more of a destination for that people can feel confident coming to here.
Well, and it lets them get outside.
Yeah.
Not just in a city park. It means they can come out somewhere that feels totally rural.
Yeah.
And it's
spacious.
Lovely. Up here, you've got a great view.
The fact that we can see past Stirling up to Ben Vorlich and Ben Lomond on a good day, it is just incredible for Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Really nice. There's not a day goes by that I'm not grateful for that view.
You were saying that you have open days or something, was that right?
Yeah, so we do a farm tour. We try to do one every quarter, which is just a sign-up thing but free. But yeah, the Tuesday and Thursdays during the summer, our drop-in sessions happen on the farm, and on a Tuesday morning we also have a sign-up for volunteer sessions in the market garden. So if you want to come and do a bit of gardening here, there's good opportunities every week. And if you want to come for a kind of instructive tour, you kind of need to look for the next one. If people get in touch with us, we'll do our best to facilitate people, but we're trying to use the farm tours as a way of getting all of the information to everybody who asks about what
and it
we
makes
do.
sense if you bring them all on the same day, because just people dropping by, you're trying to do your day job.
Sure.
So people can look out for those on social media and website.
Yes, exactly.
And come along and visit. They can come along to the Toby Carvery car park and they can look at the community allotments.
Yes.
And come out into the field, which is all open access.
Some of our gardens aren't behind the fence either. The front there with the little shelter, we've got a bit of garden there that's permanently open with a viewpoint.
Yeah.
All of these paths around the farm, we encourage people to come and spend time here. There's a few strategically placed benches for people who need to have a wee sit down to make it round. We've got our regular older folk do the route. You see them regularly. It's very nice. So the land is owned by Edinburgh Council.
Right.
And we have a 25-year agricultural lease from them.
So the future is secured.
The future is secure. We've got a secure tenancy here. And the council have been very supportive. I think managing green space for community and biodiversity, I think, is something that ticks boxes for the council.
Yes.
2020-21, we'd had COP in Glasgow, and I think at that point And even with lockdowns and people being a bit more conscious of their food supply, the food system, maybe how fragile some of that was and how much we actually depended on our local area and the people we lived nearby in a way that hadn't maybe been so apparent. I think coming in that context, when we were proposing the farm and a change of use on the land essentially, I think that really did tick a lot of boxes for the council and for other stakeholders, because a lot of local authorities in Scotland were championing their tree planting plans, a lot of green space planning around COP, and then anecdotally we know that a lot of the market gardens and the small producers in Scotland saw a real uptick in the demand for their produce during COVID and lockdown. So it was a good moment to arrive on the scene proposing this project.
But it's more than just market gardening, because you've actually got the aim about food poverty and nutrition and disadvantaged communities.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't just work for the council, it's how these kind of initiatives should be.
Yeah, serving the community that we're part of here, building the community infrastructure so that we do have a stake in the food production.
What a nice place you work in.
Yeah.
You work in a brilliant place, don't you? This is lovely. You must really want to come to work.
I do, yeah, I absolutely do. Yeah, best job I ever had.
What did you do before?
So I've worked on other farms. I've been in community agriculture for about 10 years now, and previous to that it was more conventional gardening, horticulture, landscaping. So a lot of transferable skills. But after doing that for a good number of years, I knew that I didn't have a future in that. I wanted my work to be a bit more aligned with my own politics, my own passions, and at that point, community food production, community agriculture was the way to go, and I've taken my time to get involved in a project like this. This feels like a real privilege to be involved in this. It's where I want to be. I'm from Edinburgh. I grew up in the south side of Edinburgh, so to be able to do this and to offer this back to the city is incredible.
Yeah, it is a privilege. But you've earned it because you've been working in the area and you're someone who believes in it.
Yeah.
So, asking the usual questions that I ask everybody, what does the outdoors mean for you? I
think the outdoors it's where I live. Really, it's everything. I am myself when I'm outdoors. I feel like quite young I knew that I didn't have the temperament to work indoors, that really I was supposed to be outside. I was supposed to have my hands in the soil one way or another. I think everything that's happened since has just affirmed that for me, and now I have a very solid and secure knowledge of myself that I am outside in the wind, in the weather, and that's just a sense of belonging, come rain or shine, really.
You're doing the right thing, in my view. And was there ever a time when being outdoors really helped you? Yeah,
I think maybe it's hard for me to pinpoint a moment, but I will say that my relationship to the land, and here on the farm having the Firth of Forth just feeling like my neighbour, that has an ongoing and sustained impact on my mental health in a supportive way. I am living with this land, and that is a reciprocal relationship. And I feel like fundamentally that baseline supports me in a way that I would feel very vulnerable without that relationship.
Yeah.
So I think the privilege of being able to work outside and really focus on that relationship as part of my work is a tremendous privilege. But I would absolutely encourage people to spend whatever time they can outside in whatever capacity looking for that relationship with where they live, with the green space and all the other things that live there as well. Being outside and feeling particularly seasonal shifts, the transitions in the season is a very profound experience.
Where's your favourite place in or around Edinburgh?
I think the farm is definitely right up there. But I grew up in between the Meadows and Arthur Seat, and they continue to exert a gravity for me. I think Arthur Seat is something, and Winnie Hill and the whole thing is something
amazing.
Very special.
Yeah.
and it's a bit like the sea. You don't have to see it to know that you're living nearby it. So in terms of green space that I've went back to repeatedly through my life, and it has to be Arthur's Seat. Like my relationship with the farm still feels very young. It feels like there's so much potential here and there's a lot of joy, but the really fundamental...
You're home.
Yeah. I think generally I feel like Edinburgh, we're very lucky with the green space that we have and how easy it is to get out of Edinburgh with the Pentlands. And I do love living in Edinburgh. I'm not sure I would be able to live in a big city. And I think that's partly because of the access to green space and outdoors that is afforded us here.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the tour. I've enjoyed seeing up around the community areas. I love the woods and seeing all what you're growing. It's fantastic. It's very impressive.
Thanks for coming to visit.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Good. And I'll put all the details of where people can find out more on the podcast. That was fascinating. I really enjoyed finding out about that community and meeting someone who honestly believes that he has the best job that he could ever have and who just loves being there. It is a beautiful space. And although you can't just turn up and visit the farm, they do have open days. And you can find details on their social media and their website, which I'll put on the podcast. And you can also come and visit the community allotments. And on a Thursday late afternoon, they have events and they have a market stall, so you can come down and get some veg as well. And I have to say, having seen it, the veg is gorgeous. So I highly recommend finding out more about it. And I think it's fascinating. And thank you for listening to Edinburgh Outdoors podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please go online, rate it and give a review, and don't forget to tell friends and colleagues about it too. And if you know of a green space in or around Edinburgh that might like to be featured, please get in touch.